folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul Harrell, and you have once again found the Millstone Report. And as always, we can't do the program without you watching every single day. We really do appreciate it. Before we go any further, this portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Redvive Health and the great folks over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. That's Redvive, V-I-V-E, health.org/Paul. We'll tell you more about the healing power of light and the clinical strength red light panels you can get in your own home a little later in the program. We got a great show for you. There's a lot of stuff going on, a little back and forth between Amazon and the White House and Donald Trump. Jeff Bezos backing down. We'll tell you about that. We also have, the results from the Canadian elections. Interesting what happened there. Pierre Poilievre, losing the race as well as his own seat. Pretty embarrassing. And I just remember back when Donald Trump was on with Laura Ingraham, and Trump actually said, I would prefer a liberal. There are now people saying that because there's a Marxist government once again firmly in control of Canada, that some of those other provinces that are more conservative will likely start to petition to secede and want the U.S.'s help to do it. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also want to do a follow-up with what we talked about yesterday. We played this clip from Steve Deace at the Christ is King How to Defeat Trash World Conference. And I didn't it was such a long clip, and then we ran out of time, and I didn't get to actually address it. But I want to talk about the church in general, and really I don't think you can do that without bringing back up Megan Basham's book, Shepherds for Sale, and essentially how there's this Marxist carve-out that's been effectively, created a safe space for Marxism within varying denominations, in Christianity. So I want to talk about that, and if we have time, obviously we'll get to, my favorite segment. I'm already against women clergy. You don't have to convince me. But we're going to start today with news that broke a few days ago, which is the Kennedy Center. Pride Month, these pro-LGBTQ RSTLNE, would you like to buy a vow events have been canceled, according to reports. They will not be taking place, at least at the Kennedy Center, the month of June. Of course, I think we should all prepare ourselves. If you thought Pride Month and the displays, the public displays of nudity around children in different cities all across America, if you thought it was bad, and of course the cops not doing anything about it, if you thought it was bad last June, I just got a feeling it's going to be even more over the top, even more flamboyant. Flamboyant's not really the word you can use anymore. It's actually just, total degeneracy, wickedness, nudity, just everything that you can imagine. It's going to be even worse because Donald Trump won the election in 2024. I just want everyone to need to gird up our loins, no pun intended, for what's coming this June. Because as the country has shifted and turned and rejected the woke sex religion, you're going to have nothing left on the boat but the diehards, the dedicated, the those who are, completely sold out to this religion and are, commit to it with a religious fervor. This was the headline over at Rolling Stone. Kennedy Center cancels Pride Month schedule as organizers proactively relocate events. So these events are going to continue different venues across Washington, D.C. Apparently, there you see the Kennedy Center. Remember when remember when Obama put a rainbow on the White House? The Kennedy Center's, this is how the Rolling Stone editorializes it. The Kennedy Center's war on the performing arts continues to wage under the Trump administration as a series of events planned around Pride Month have quietly been canceled or relocated. According to the Associated Press, artists involved with the Kennedy Center's Tapestry of Pride, scheduled for June the 5th to the 8th during Washington, D.C.'s World Pride. So this was news to me. This year, apparently once every 2 years, there is a World Pride Festival. And this year, it's scheduled to be hosted in Washington, D.C. Following the cancellations, Washington's Capital Pride Alliance disassociated from the Kennedy Center. So apparently, from what I can reckon, not all of the events were canceled, but because a great deal of them were, they basically took their ball and went home. While the Tapestry of Pride event is still listed on the Kennedy Center website, no details or specific events are listed. Further details to be announced. In the meantime, check with the other. So that's World Pride. Anyway, the left, obviously, they're not taking this very well. Here's CNN's coverage. Kennedy Center's LGBTQ plus Pride events canceled. And it's essentially the exact same story. Multiple artists and producers involved in the center's Tapestry of Pride. It had been planned for June the 8th. They told the Associated Press that the events had been quietly canceled, moved to other venues, and in the wake of other cancellations, Washington's Capital Pride Alliance disassociated from the Kennedy Center. They claim that they are, though, a resilient community and that we found other avenues to celebrate their pride. We're finding another path to the celebration, but the fact is we have to maneuver in a way, and it is disappointing. So they're disappointed. They're a resilient community. You know, I've talked a lot about how the language, and we lose. You know, you really don't ever hear the mainstream media ever call Christians a community. The language is a big deal. It's a big part of who wins and who loses in society, those who get to define the words. There's many people that believe that, you know, those of us on the right should have never, ever accepted the word heterosexuality as something that's just common, right? Because instead of just, talking about, normal, biblical-based ideas of sexuality, we adopted heterosexuality. Many people did it, and I'm, just as guilty of this, as kind of like a Coke and Pepsi. You've got your homosexuality and a heterosexuality. Many people think we should have never, ever, allowed heterosexuality to be a term in our vocabulary. Maybe normal would have been better. It's just what some people have said out there, and I think there's certainly something to that when you look at the language used, specifically here, community. I actually, every time I talk about the LGBT, for years I would use the word community because this is the phrase that has been put out by, the mainstream media, the propaganda outlets. You have to say the word community after LGBTQ or whatever. That's why I added the Wheel of Fortune, RSTLNE, would you like to buy Val, Enclave. Sometimes I slip up, still say community because it's just embedded. But they would never do this with Christians. At least I haven't seen it. In mainstream publications refer to Christians as a Christian community. Maybe there's some examples out there, but just something that I've noticed. So how's the left handling this? Well, I don't know if this is in a direct reaction to it all, but I will say they had this sit-in on the Capitol steps. You've got Hakeem Jeffries. You've got Cory Booker. Both of these men are kind of now being referred to as the Timu version of Barack Obama. So especially Hakeem Jeffries is the Timu Barack Obama. This is who I like this. I like Tim Young. Democrats literally don't know what they're doing anymore. Who are they? Who are they?
If we build this world from love, yada da 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 yada da da, then God will build this world from love.
Yes, I'm not really sure. I don't know who this guy is. For those of you listening to the audio only version of the podcast available on Apple and Spotify, this is somebody wearing a rainbow colored shawl pointing to heaven. I just find it extremely. It's obviously very ironic considering that the rainbow doesn't belong to the LGBT. It's a symbol that's been stolen by them as essentially a middle finger to heaven. We will not be judged. Well, with water. You're not going to be judged with water because obviously the covenant that the Lord made with Noah about not flooding the earth in a global flood ever again, and that's what the rainbow symbolizes, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the Democrats are refusing to moderate a little bit their stances socially, and refusing to admit. I mean, in the inner cities, yeah, I mean, it's still very, very popular to be, a congregant and adherent to their woke sex religion. And I think woke sex religion really sums it up, because they are committed to CRT or DEI with religious fervor, and they're committed to sexual depravity, violating societal biblical norms about sexuality with religious fervor. So woke sex religion is, in my opinion, very accurate phrase to describe what it is. And the Democrats they have no, it just looks like they have no intention of kind of taking stock and realizing that the majority of the country rejected. It was a huge issue for people who would otherwise consider themselves to be independent or maybe left of center a little bit. Men competing in women's sports is just a common sense. This is evil and we have to reject it. Transing kids and calling it health care, the indoctrination of our kids at schools with LGBTQ, RSTLNE propaganda, transitioning kids without their parents' consent or knowledge. I mean, all of this is stuff that people have rejected, and the Democrats they don't seem like they are ever. They're not going. And it really comes down to the fact that it's a religion for these people. There's dogma, there's orthodoxy that goes along with this. And there's also the sense, a very real sense, that they are the ones with the moral high ground. That's the other thing. They believe, because it's a religious conviction, they believe they have the moral high ground. They believe in any confrontation and any dialogue that they are morally superior to those of us who are rejecting the sexual depravity of the left. Something to think about. Then we have this. Okay, shifting gears here. So there is a congressman, and I've seen photos of this congressman over the last couple of weeks. Shri Thanedar, Congressman Shri Thanedar, and he always looks like he's kind of got like a Karen style hairdo, or a really bad hair club for men like he's the guy that's going on the infomercials, back in the day for hair club for men. But also some of the other photos I've shot, it always looks like his suits are feminine in a way, kind of like that one episode of The Office where Michael Scott is wearing a female blouse or a female suit, doesn't know it. Anyway, Shri Thanedar sounds like the final boss of some sort of, I don't know, live. It sounds like the final boss of a video game. Thanedar. Shri Thanedar files impeachment on Trump over the deportation of the MS-13 gang member, Orrin McIntyre. Orrin is reminding us this is just what the founders intended. Take a listen.
This is Congressman Shri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment.
I mean, we need more of this. The Democrats need to make Thanedar. They need to make Thanedar their main spokesperson. I think that would really be great. Obviously, there's a lot of comparisons here. John Harris makes this great comparison with this announcement. I don't know if you guys remember Fantasy Island. I wonder if I'll get a copyright strike for that one. But yeah, no, there's some real deplane vibes. going on with this one. That's really hilarious. Okay, so earlier in the morning, Caroline Leavitt roasted this news report about Amazon announcing that they are going to be showing tariff prices next to products in a move that was essentially going to be designed to politically damage President Trump. People go on Amazon and they see what the price would have been had the tariffs not affected. Of course, Amazon doing a lot of business with China and other countries. Listen to what Caroline Leavitt said this morning.
I will take this, since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans
Let's actually stop right there. We'll get back to her comments here in a minute because I have that story from Reuters. Back on December 17th, headline, Amazon partnered with China propaganda arm, written by Steve Stecklow and Jeffrey Daston. Amazon.com was marketing a collection of President Xi Jinping's speeches and writings on its Chinese website about 2 years ago when Beijing delivered an edict. According to two people familiar with the incident, the American e-commerce giant must stop allowing any customer ratings and reviews in China. A negative review of Xi's book prompted the demand, one of the people said. I think the issue was anything under 5 stars, the highest rating in Amazon's 5-point system, said the other person. Ratings and reviews are a crucial part of Amazon's e-commerce business, a major way of engaging shoppers. But Amazon complied, the two people said. Currently, on its Chinese site, Amazon.cn, the government-published book has no customer reviews or any ratings, and the comment section is disabled. Amazon's compliance with the Chinese government edict, which has not been reported before, is part of a deeper decade-long effort by the company to win favor in Beijing to protect and grow its business and one of the world's largest marketplaces. So no doubt this plan about tariffs, that's now been canceled, by the way, we'll tell you about that here in a minute. No doubt this plan on tariffs was something that China would have very much liked because they want maximum domestic political pressure applied on Trump. They want maximum political pressure applied on Trump, and there's now people saying that that's one of the reasons Rand Paul is trying to take the power of tariffs away from the president. People are now, and I just saw one report on this, talking about a PAC donation he got from an investor who is deeply invested in TikTok as well as. And that investor is also very much invested in China, and the tariff idea is really bad for business. But back to the Caroline Leavitt response.
Buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon. And Secretary, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would also add that the bringing down the terrible Biden inflation has been a priority for the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and President Trump has done a great job of leading that since January 20th. Interest rates.
All right, so there's Leavitt's response, which is essentially, this is a hostile political act. So just a few minutes after the news broke, Amazon's stock got obliterated. It has since made a little bit of a recovery, at least according to the last time I looked, right before we came on the air for this live broadcast. I don't know where it's at now, but it did recover from where it fell, to 183. And then we had this. Nick Sorter posting this minutes after President Trump called Jeff Bezos this morning. Amazon caved and backtracked on their plans to display tariff prices next to products on its website. Trump made very clear to Amazon that if they were going to get further in bed with China, there would be consequences. Sounds like they heard the message loud and clear. So here's Bezos. Speaking, I mentioned Coke and Pepsi earlier. They are very much, this whole stunt that he pulled with his wife going up into space and Katy Perry going up into space and everything else. I called it, when the hatch door opened before they were ready, and then there was this tool that didn't actually open the door, and it was all a stunt, and it's all right there on video. It was a stunt to make Elon Musk the Coke and Jeff Bezos the Pepsi. But we'll see. Maybe Jeff Bezos' stock falls with the Hollywood elite after caving to Trump. Breitbart News reporting Amazon denies report. They're now denying it. That tariff cost will be shown next to product prices. Punchbowl News reported on Tuesday that according to a source familiar with the matter, the e-commerce giant will start showing the figure added to the value because of the duties right alongside a product's total price. The move is reportedly an effort by Amazon to inform customers cost rises have nothing to do with Amazon and everything to do with Trump's White House. The response to the reported move has been fast and to the point with diplomat Richard Grenell, for one, keen for other measures to be taken, noting the sheer volume of produce Amazon shifts from producers in China. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt slammed, but now the report is that they're denying this and they're not going to do it. And you have the report that Trump called Bezos, and now Bezos is backed down. I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but I will say that fascinating developments just from the morning to now the afternoon, how quick things can change with, apparently just a single phone call. And again, Amazon did partner with China's propaganda arm, according to Reuters. And you compare this giant retail, this juggernaut Amazon, to another juggernaut in Walmart. This morning, Axios is reporting that Walmart is expanding support for American-made products. Walmart is expanding support for American-made products through new programs to help small businesses, according to the retailer. That's what they told Axios. They announced a new Grow With Us program, shared details of the upcoming 2025 open call to make it easier for U.S.-based entrepreneurs to navigate the complexities of retail and bring their products to a national stage. Okay, so at least this is what Walmart is saying they're going to do. Obviously, Walmart has extensive ties to China as well, but you do have to wonder. What consequence. That would be what I see. That would be what I would wonder if this reported phone call took place. Trump made clear to Amazon that if they were going to get further in bed with China, there would be consequences. I wonder what consequences. I have no idea, seriously, but I would love for somebody to, what consequences could Trump put on Amazon or Bezos if you're going to undermine this economic revolution that Donald Trump is attempting? Because that's exactly what this is. This, again, is an attempted economic revolution, a complete fundamental change in how the country operates, takes in revenue, and that sort of thing. So, certainly interesting times that we live in. There's no doubt about that. Very, very interesting times. We're going to talk about Canada here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to tell you about Red Vive Health and the great folks over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. Red Vive devices emit red and near infrared light designed to reduce muscle and joint inflammation and pain, stimulate cellular energy, speed up recovery, boost skin collagen, strengthen your body, and even boost your mood. It sounds too good to be true, but it's not. Red and near-infrared light are two wavelengths that are naturally emitted by the sun. In targeted doses, these waves have a healing effect on the body. The red light is absorbed by your skin, which leads to enhanced skin health, skin tightening, anti-aging. I know there's some ladies out there listening. Then you have near-infrared light that penetrates deeper into the body, reaching your bones, muscles, tissues, and even organs. It's very good to fight inflammation internally. Experience scientifically proven anti-aging benefits and improve your skin health, reduce wrinkles, color patches, hyperpigmentation, skin discoloration. Unlock your body's true potential by increasing your energy and reducing inflammation, regulating your hormones, boosting your immune system. Early research has shown the possibility of combating depression and anxiety with the use of red and near-infrared light. I want you to do the research and go to redvivehealth.org/Paul to do it, because you need to read it. This is scientifically proven, and it's also stuff Big Pharma does not want you to know about. redvivehealth.org/Paul. That's redvive health.org/Paul, and embrace the healing power of light today. Okay, back to our stories here. I said we're going to talk a little bit about what happened in Canada last night. So Larry Schweikart saying that according to Barnes law, this works to Trump's advantage. So Pierre Poilievre not only lost the race for prime minister last night, but also lost his parliamentary seat, as you see there on your screen. Larry Schweikart is saying this is actually exactly what Trump wanted, or he is saying that Robert Barnes is saying this is what Trump wanted. And he said as much on Laura Ingraham, if you'll remember. He said, I actually think a liberal would be easier to deal with. But there are now people saying, Larry Schweikart is saying this works to Trump's benefit. He will continue to woo the western territories of Canada, the western provinces of Canada, which would have been harder with a conservative. So it is interesting to see. I mean, you know, I don't think, I'm not one of these people that didn't take, I don't discount Trump when he talks about Canada becoming the 51st state. I think if he says something like that, he generally means it. Same thing with Greenland. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Interesting, Jack Posobiec saying that boomers' number one issue in the Canadian election was dealing with Trump. Their lowest issues were helping make housing more affordable and make Canada a better place. If that is not the most, it's like the most sign of like an affluent civilization that is suicidal, I don't know what is. It actually is incredible. All Trump did was, according to Mark Mitchell, give Canada a little love tap, and the whole country flew to pieces. And it's just pretty incredible. In all seriousness, though, and we do need to think about this. This is now a Marxist government that is in firm control once again in Canada. And there are Christians in Canada now, and I'm not talking about the Canadian churches that, you know, put the rainbows on and, you know, give God female pronouns. I'm talking about the actual biblical Christian churches that exist in Canada that are now really under threat. The fact that these liberals and Marxists almost lost power, and the reason I say they almost lost power is because Pierre Poilievre was up by 20 points. Totally blew it. He had that infamous Apple video where he was, you know, trying to be this tough Canadian guy. I saw Billboard Chris, who's a Canadian, says all these politicians need to do if they want to win is just come out and say, get the men out of women's sports, and you will watch your poll numbers go up and up and up and up. But anyway, I digress. Back to Christians. There are now true Christians in Canada. They have been under assault. This assault is now going to increase because the government was threatened. They are now going to attempt to come down, even my prediction, come down even harder on true Christians that express a biblical wisdom about all issues of life that the Bible speaks about, whether that's sexual ethics, whether that's right and wrong, murder, the Ten Commandments, abortion, all of that stuff. They're going to come after the Christians even more in Canada now. So I say all that we need to be praying for Christians in Canada, because I think they also, for them to be encouraged, because I would imagine that they're very sad today. Christians in Canada are very disappointed, and we need to pray that they will not be afraid, that they will be even more emboldened to speak the truth and live their Christian life regardless of what the consequences are. But we also need to pray that they're delivered from those consequences as well. And again, that may be why that help may actually come with Donald Trump and this whole 51st state narrative, trying to get these rural, normal provinces some relief from a Marxist government. So it's something to think about. Food for thought. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Curable Premium Health and their amazing, second to none, CBD products that you can get at curable.com. That's KURIBL.com. And use promo code Paul20 and save 20%. We'll tell you more about Curable here in just a moment. This is a very... So speaking of this idea of, I don't know, what would you call it? Refugees? I mean, as the Marxist government in Canada is likely going to hammer Christians even more, and this idea of Donald Trump stepping in and trying to allow their provinces to secede or break away. I think Quebec, was it Quebec that's already talked about doing this? I covered it briefly, but one of them they're already trying to organize this even before the elections. We had this question from a Brit in the White House briefing room yesterday about British citizens potentially seeking refuge in the United States because Great Britain has abandoned any allegiance to the concept of freedom of conscience and freedom of speech.
Posts and general free speech issues. Would the Trump administration consider political asylum for British citizens in such a situation?
Well, to your latter question, it's a very good one. I have not heard that proposed to the president, nor have I spoken to him about that idea, but I certainly can and talk to our national security team and see if it's something the administration would entertain.
Yes, please.
To your first question about free speech in the United Kingdom, the vice president has been incredibly outspoken about this for good reason. And the president has spoken about this as well directly with your prime minister when he was here for a visit to the White House.
Posts.
That's incredible to think just how far Europe has fallen, and they're even having a discussion about this in the highest office of the land. It's wild, but it's true. And matter of fact, I would think, at least on paper, like the very idea of political asylum perfectly fits the situation this British reporter is describing. That they are cracking down on freedom of speech. They are cracking down on freedom of conscience. They're arresting women and men for saying silent prayers, just stopping and saying a silent prayer outside. So they have no go. They have free speech zones where you're not allowed to pray. Really shows you how satanic their government is. I'll say that again. Their government is satanic with that kind of mentality. It shows you that the government is totalitarian, yes, but it's also fearful of its citizens believing in a higher power than the government. So it's very demonic and it's very satanic, and it's a fascinating question. I can't even believe that we're actually here. In other news, we have the senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, is once again trying to get a bill passed, which is a very, very long and arduous process in Congress. But he's got a bill filed called Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments, otherwise known as the Pelosi Act, the acronym, Preventing Elected Leaders Owning Securities Investments. They've named it the Pelosi Act. This is fantastic. It was actually introduced in 2023, but they're going to, I think he's going to try to get this thing through the finish line, and who knows, obviously, this bill probably has no chance. That's the truth of the matter. This bill probably has absolutely no chance for it to ever do anything. Fox News had this headline about it: Hawley reignites Pelosi Act push to ban lawmakers from trading stocks. Trump said he would absolutely sign a stock trading ban if it reached his desk. So, I mean, let's think about this for a second. Because, obviously I would totally support this, but there is only so much you can do. Because let's say this bill passes. What about the kids? What about the kids? The kids of politicians. I mean, they can own stock. They can get a tip. I mean, we've seen this. Just look at Joe and Hunter Biden, right? Right? I mean, yeah, Joe was outright corrupt as well, and there's plenty of evidence for it. But, I mean, in order to shield from any even more blatant display of enriching yourself and, being a corrupt politician and taking advantage of your office to make more money, he just let his son do it. His son never held public office. Or did he? I mean, was that Beau Biden that was Attorney General? I don't know if Hunter ever, I don't think he did. But the bottom line is he wasn't in office when Joe Biden was getting him the sweet Burisma deal to be on the board. He wasn't in office when that Chinese company CEFC was using him to facilitate. They said, visas, and you're going to do some legal work for visas, getting Chinese immigrants into America. Like, the children of the politicians are a really big problem. Go work for this nonprofit, and then USAID will send the nonprofit all of this money that goes to pay the salary and then some of some politician's child or some politician's nephew, and then the nephew or the child then tithes a portion of that money back to the family in some way. I mean, that really is the grift. Don't get me wrong. I am totally for banning politicians from trading stocks with all of their, in their information. But I will say there's only so far you can go with that. And also you can't just have a bill about it. You got to have teeth. If you're caught doing it, there has to be severe consequences legally. There has to be actual accountability that comes along with it. But ultimately, I guess my point here is you got to have good and moral people in office that can resist the selfishness and the sinful pride and grift that comes along with that. You've got to be able to resist the forces of this world, to whether it's your own personal politician or their kids. And it really just goes to show you how we really truly need so many more Christians in public office that know that they're accountable to somebody, a higher power, and they know that it would be sinful to be a corrupt politician. And I'm not saying there's never been any Christian politicians that have been ensnared in corruption. Of course there have. But you can't just, you're going to pass this bill, then you're going to say, okay, and their kids can't hold stocks either. Their kids' friends can't hold stock, close family friends. You see what I'm saying? There's a way around a law like this. This is, if anything, it's useful to see who's going to vote against it. Primary them, I suppose. But at some point, you do run out of legal remedies here, and you just have to have good people to replace the wicked people that keep using their position to enrich themselves and make the rest of America suffer. Just food for thought. Just food for thought on that. Let me tell you about Curable CBD and the great products over at curable.com. You've heard me say it before. Curable, they toil the soil. They plant the seed. They harvest the hemp. They extract the hemp. Then they take it. They don't use any chemicals. They don't use any of those harmful pesticides when they're growing the product. Then they take it to a third party. They have it tested so it's verified, so that their claims that they make on their website and on their products are verified. They're true by a third party. If you've never tried CBD, you need to try it. You need to do yourself a favor and quit taking the ibuprofen, put down the Tylenol, put down the Aleve, and consider a life. It is possible where you are not so dependent on NSAIDs that, according to studies, long-term are not good for your health. I mean, every now and then, I get it. You got to take one here or there, but there's CBD for that. And many people have decided to replace, their NSAID intake with CBD, whether it's the tinctures, whether it's the topical cream, whether it's, the gummies as well. I mean, because not only will those sleep gummies get you to sleep, but you're also ingesting the CBD, and it goes to fight inflammation. So I want you to go to curable.com. I want you to get your CBD. You see it there on your screen, to curable.com. That's KURIBL.com. And I want you to use promo code Paul20 and save 20%. That's curable.com. My name, Paul20. The code Paul20 saves you 20%. And also check out their great deals across the website, free shipping, and the like. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our good friend, Mike Lindell. Don't go anywhere. Back here in just a moment.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
So the website's MyPillow.com. You want to make sure that you use my promo code PH, and right now they've got these great deals on sheets, all sizes across the site. You need to check it out. But they're also giving away these Rev 7 energy drinks as well, a free 3-pack. You need to try. They're non-caffeinated. They have nootropics in them and ketones in them, especially if you're on like a ketogenic diet. Anyway, I want you to try MyPillow.com. Shop all across the site. Get their great. I've got their slippers. They're fantastic. And I've got their pillows. Obviously, I've got their sheets. I've got the towels. The MyPillow towels, I think, are my favorite product. But I want you to do that, and be sure to use promo code PH when you do. All right, so yesterday on the program, about this time, we were going over this speech that Steve Deace gave at the Christ is King conference earlier this month, How to Defeat Trash World. And I wanted to revisit this because I didn't get to address it, everything that he said, because we ran out of time. When he says, let's listen to it, and now I'm hopefully going to be able to respond. Listen.
And in the last couple of years, I started to change my thinking, and my paradigm began to shift. And this last election cemented it for me, that we have to actually disciple the church. And, one of the things I've said to candidates and causes I've worked with and for over the years is you cannot win in politics without a base. And one of the classic mistakes a lot of candidates make, and very good ones, is they immediately try to broaden their appeal before they've established a base. And you have to also understand who you are and be self-aware, and who your base could actually be, not who you want it to be. Okay? And I realized I was actually violating my own orthodoxy, that I'm trying to reach a broader culture with some of the expressions and the way that I communicate that could be at times borderline crude, but would be understandable, like that scene in the movie Father Stew where the classic priest gets up to try to talk to the prisoners there in the cells, and they don't understand anything he's saying. And Mark Wahlberg's priest gets up, and he comes from the streets, so he knows their language and their curse words, and suddenly they completely understand what it is he's trying to communicate. That's kind of a crude metaphor for my methodology up until this point. But this last election now, for the first time, the broader culture, MAGA in particular, whatever you think of it as a movement, as a brand, MAGA in particular is ahead of the Christian church collectively in engaging the moral fights of this age. That is both a credit to MAGA and a shame to the church, and I can promise you that is not a long-standing path to victory. No political philosophy can withstand the spirit of the age. Cannot happen. All right, we are fighting a spiritual war here. And so, to have young men who are not here today, They're roofing somewhere, or they're pouring concrete somewhere, okay? And they don't understand why something has gone wrong, but they know something has gone wrong. Or that young Hispanic man, Trump won Hispanic men outright by 10 points. A lot of those young Hispanic men, frankly, are the kids we once called dreamers, that their illegal parents brought with them when they were here, or they were pregnant with them and had them when they were here. Well, they're now embedded in America. They're second generation Americans now. And they're like, I don't want to go back to Honduras, and I don't want whatever the Sam hell is going on in Honduras. I don't want to bring that here. So build a wall, secure the border, right? They don't kind of really know what we're talking about up here, but instinctively they kind of get it. Way more than your sweater-vested, pleated khaki pastor, Hawaiian shirt in January wearing pastor gets it. And the church has got to catch up here. And if it does not systemically catch up here, what happened in this last election is not a movement. We got a TO baby, like Dickie V used to tell us to do when we're down by 20. We got a timeout. We stopped their momentum, but we didn't actually start putting points on the board. And I looked at the scoreboard after the timeout, we're still down by 20. We're going to need the church to have a long-standing movement. And I just don't think much of the church is equipped. And again, just being brutally honest, I probably had a dozen people reach out to me that I know and tell me not to come here today and not to do this event. And I'm going to tell you what I told every single one of them. After spending 20 years in this business trying to get the church to rise up and be tougher, I'm not really in much of a mood to suddenly say, but not like that, not quite like that. Now, that does not mean necessarily that we don't have standards ourselves that we have to uphold, and God will not hold us to. And that's, if we want to win, we have to live by kingdom rules, not by worldly rules of engagement. And I'll talk about that in my talk later this afternoon. But the church has to catch up, because what we're trying to do here is rerun the American Revolution, not the French Revolution. And the vox populi, those people are still totally depraved sinners too, even if their instincts are correct. Give them power, they won't do any different than the aristocracy. They'll just put a different group of people in prison. They won't do any differently, right? We're just going to swing the pendulum from the whole thing about, well, today it's about being based. Well, really, what are you based in? Who are you based upon? Based on what, right? And I think this is where real discipleship and catechesis that can only come from the church. It's the only transcendent institution God ever gave mankind. And if it doesn't take discipleship seriously again, all the stuff that we're up here, the back and forth with different sects and movements that I get, people try to drag me into on X all the time, and I try to stay away from like the plague, because I got enough of my own enemies when opening my own mouth, frankly. All right? But all those things that we have the luxury of discussing and debating ourselves right now, they're going to be all irrelevant in the next midterm election if the church doesn't catch up, and quick. And that's what I am concerned about. The church has spent the last 20 years trying to reach Karen in the suburbs, your Christian music station, uplifting and hope-filled. It's always about reaching Karen and Mildred in the suburbs and Betamaxing her husband. And it's done nothing. It's lost the culture completely. And
so there is so much there, and it went on, and we played the rest of it yesterday on the program. I just wanted to address a few things. When he says things like disciple the church, that kind of makes me, well, what does that exactly mean? Now, he's talking collectively here, right? So church's authority is specifically spiritual authority. But I think what he's talking about here, and he goes on here in a minute to talk about how we're losing the men and everything else. And so there may be some people out there that say, okay, Paul, are you saying that churches need to change what they're doing to specifically cater to men? No. I would say no. That's not the goal. My argument would be that if you preach the Bible and the full counsel of the Word, you're going to just naturally attract those people. So you don't do it to attract the men, you do it because you're being faithful to what the truth is in the Word of God. And so I guess what I would say is, yeah, what we need is a return to biblical churches, and churches that understand their authority is spiritual, and pastors that understand this, pastors that equip their congregates, and those congregates based on the knowledge of God, the goodness of God, how Jesus Christ saves sinners. Are then they go out, and but you don't code everything to the gynocracy, which is what has happened, or you don't code everything to the latest fad. For all of the criticism this new Christian resurgence gets about trying to engage the culture, what is lost in this is that that's exactly what these left-leaning churches have done. They are the ones, in order to get a respectable seat at the cultural table, have embraced things like racial quotas. They're the ones that have embraced things as critical race theory could be used as an analytical tool, and you can actually combine the two. They are adopting these things, and that is why at the beginning of the show, when I said I was going to talk about this, I think you have to look at a book like Megan Basham's Shepherds for Sale, that sent the leftists, that exposed much of this collective church. Generally, what Steve Deace is saying is now being default. The leaders within a lot of these giant movements are now at default. They're now center left, when 20, 30, 40 years ago they were center right. And then don't even get me started on the third wayism out there that is that somehow wants you to believe that there's a third political way that we've got to ignore. We don't have to make tough we don't have to make obvious choices about what the culture is presenting us as good, wicked, calling good things evil and evil things good. That if we criticize the left, then we have to also find something that the right is upset about. And it totally misses the point while we continue careening down this slippery slope. So generally, I very much agree with what Steve Day said there, and I'll give you a few examples. Todd Starnes over at Fox News responding to the Center for Baptist Leadership's video here, criticizing the ERLC, which has become a woke arm of the Southern Baptist Convention, and actually works against many of the goals and beliefs of an average, and I'm not a Southern Baptist, but from what I can tell, I follow William Wolfe, and I know the average Southern Baptist Pew Center. So here's a video from the ERLC. What do white Christians need to be mindful of when speaking about racial reconciliation? Listen to this video the ERLC put out.
White Christians need to learn, above all things, I think, to be good listeners. Over the last several years, as I've tried to help build a culture for racial reconciliation and kingdom diversity, which is a core value of Southeastern Seminary, I've come to understand more and more that my perspective is not the perspective of my African American brothers and sisters, or my Hispanic brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters. They really do see life differently. They're operating out of a different paradigm, a different context that's very different than mine. And I didn't really realize that until I stopped talking and began to listen. So I think one of the things that white evangelicals in particular have got to do is become better listeners. In addition to that, we've got to be willing to surrender power, which is again not indigenous to our nature. As I often say, not only do we need to invite ethnic minorities into our room and to have a seat at the table, we even need to be willing to surrender leadership at the table if we're really going to make progress and really help our brothers and sisters understand we see them on an equal plane with ourselves.
So my first response to that is you first. You first. Center for Baptist Leadership says the ERLC made this video starring Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary President Danny Aiken telling white Christians to listen to minorities, above all things, surrender power. Interestingly, neither Leatherwood or Aiken have surrendered their position of leadership to a minority. Now, what's funny about this is as the country, this is what Steve Deace was talking about, MAGA being ahead of these cultural battles and the church left behind. If there's not some reckoning and there's not people that start to take care of their own houses and their own denominations, you're going to see stuff like this for the next 5 to 7 years. As these these churches essentially just drag their feet because they were infiltrated by essentially the woke sex religion. In some cases, the woke DEI, CRT religion, and in the extreme cases, you have the sex religion that we talked about at the beginning. And that's not all. William Wolf last week, let's be perfectly clear, DEI or any kind of quotas for hiring on race is sinful partiality, violates James chapter 2, verse 1, and is always anti-white. Therefore, DEI is anti-white racism, plain and simple. This was J.D. Greer, right, the former head of the SBC. This was one of his sermons.
One of the things that I do, and this is more about Southern Baptist polity than you'll ever want to know, but one of my main roles is to appoint people on committees who will then appoint trustees who end up shaping the institutions and providing leadership and accountability. I just tell you, of all the appointments that I've made, 2/3 of them are either women or they are people of color. I really do that for 2 reasons. One, that really is the future. Already, by the way, this is something, it's hard. Through an unbelievable act of generosity, already right now today, 20% of Southern Baptist membership is people of color, which is something, honestly, knowing our history, I do not understand. It is an act of extraordinary generosity. But already, even with things the way they are, the membership is already 20% people of color. 63% of all the churches that Southern Baptist planted last year were led by people of color. So it is the present, it is the very quickly coming future. That's the first reason. Secondly, we need their wisdom. It's not like this act of grace of, oh, from up here, I just want to graciously share the stage because it's... No, I need the wisdom in a changing culture. There are things that God has put in this part of the body that I would be a much poorer Christian and much poorer leader, and there are blind spots I will never see until God has filled his church with a variety of people and the kinds of people that make up the diversity of the church.
Again, this is your DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, all in one, infiltrating the church. This is one of the reasons that Megan Basham wrote her book, Shepherds for Sale, where she highlighted this. She highlights on all of these issues, all of these political issues, whether it's climate change, whether it's immigration, it is the leftism of our culture that has infiltrated the church, and that is what Steve Deace was talking about here. And he's in my opinion right on so many of these issues. But again, the solution, in my opinion, the solution is very simple. The Bible. And churches being unashamed at preaching the whole counsel of God. And I think this allergy to it, and how do we explain it instead of just boldly standing for the truth, knowing that people who don't believe it, they may be offended. You know what? They may not be offended. They may become convicted and actually repent and trust in Christ. So that's all the time that I have for this edition. I still didn't get to say everything I wanted to say. But anyway, just incredible times that we're in. And that's all the time that I have for this edition of the Millstone Report. Unless I'm providentially hindered, I'm going to be back here on, what is today? Tuesday. So I'll be back here wishing you a happy Wednesday tomorrow at 12 Central, live on X America News. And until then, follow me on X at Real Paul Harrell, and follow X America News at X America News. God bless everybody out there watching, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based